If the children misbehaved, he would spank them with a razor strap.
We actually learned how.
Johnny not only felt alienated at home, he longed to be accepted by his classmates, but a congenital heart condition prevented him from playing with the other kids. Young Gacy was deeply confused about his sexuality, but there was no one to help him, so he buried his secret deep inside. By the time he entered high school, the young man had learned to hide his confusion. John dated several girls and attended school dances with them, but neither his grade work with the Junior Chamber of Commerce, better known as the JCs. Working harder than he ever did in school, Gacy organized anti-litter campaigns and booked speakers for sex education classes in the public schools. Soon, John found himself hobnobbing with politicians, including on several occasions, Illinois Governor Otto Kerner.
Just like a natural thing to him.
John's parents came down from Chicago to meet their grandson. For the first time, John saw Pride had a promising future. But the ambitious family man was hiding a sexual compulsion that threatened to ruin him. As their Man of the Year. By 1967, he was a shoo-in for JC president and the father of another child named Christine. Yet there was a side to Gacy that his family and cronies had never seen. An insatiable lust for teenage boys.
Spices.
In December 1969, a TV film crew visited the prison to shoot a segment called Christmas at Anamosa. In this rare footage, the head cook spoke with pride about the meal he was preparing for his fellow inmates.
The men, with the exception of the turkey, which they get a generous proportion of, and the pumpkin pie that will be served, are allowed to take as much as they want to eat. The only requirement is that you eat what you take.
After his interview, Gacy joined the prison choir in singing a carol. But this holiday season would be John's worst. Back in Chicago, his father was battling cirrhosis of the liver. On Christmas morning, John Stanley Gacy died.
He had a little plan of action. He was going to be successful.
By June 1971, Gacy had saved enough money to start his own contracting company. He called it PDM, for painting, decorating, and maintenance. The following year, John and his mother bought this ranch house in Norwood Park on the outskirts of Chicago. By now, he had a steady girlfriend named Carol Hoff, who was recently divorced and on welfare. Gacy had known her since high school. John confided in Carol about his bisexuality and his prison record. She was naturally concerned, but tolerant. She saw her boyfriend as a hard-working, caring man her children loved. From the beginning of their courtship, her two daughters, Tammy and April, called him Daddy.
He loved the girl.
The ultimate power trip.
Gacy was able to act as if nothing had happened. 7 months later, he and Carol were married. She and her daughters moved in with John. His mother moved out to give the newlyweds privacy. Soon after the wedding, John's relationship with his wife began to deteriorate. He still longed for sex with young men, wherever and whenever he could find it. On the night of July 30th, the real John Wayne Gacy was. Not only was he a prosperous entrepreneur by day, but even entertained children in hospitals. He would dress up as a clown he called Pogo.
He's like, poke me. Does it bother you? Huh? Does that bother you? Huh? So I told him, I said, if you don't take these off, I'm going to kick your ass.
The teenager then saw a side of his boss that few ever lived to tell about.
It was just like a light switch.
He met with a client of his contracting company at the Nissan pharmacy in suburban Des Plaines. Gacy was bidding on a remodeling job. Around closing time, he abducted 15-year-old Rob Peast, who worked at the drugstore. Gacy had lured him into the car with the promise of a better-paying job with his company. The teenager was never seen alive again. He became Gacy's 33rd victim. John Wayne Gacy was introduced to the world as the worst serial killer in American history. Yet Gacy seemed more concerned with the police rummaging through his home than with his criminal notoriety.
They want to make sure.
Those who thought they knew him best, his own family, realized they had no idea who John Gacy was.
I went into first a denial stage, and then I went into anger. And I told him how much I just hated.
Gacy was no textbook criminal. Even the psychiatric experts who testified at his trial were baffled by his complex personality. Gacy's home in suburban Chicago was besieged by a fleet of officers and evidence technicians. Captured on this rare police video, the excavation of the crawl space was carried out with the precision of an archaeological dig. Piece by piece, officers lifted the remains of Gacy's victims through the floorboards and carried them out the front door.
A crime. I wanted to hang his ass.
33 bodies were found in all. Now, John Gacy's fate for committing these hideous crimes would be determined in a Chicago courtroom.
Maybe he would have been what he wanted to be. That governor, that politician, that senator. You know, we talked
Some older kids, and I passed out, and I remained unconscious for about 10 or 15 minutes. We went to the doctor, and they said I had an enlarged bottleneck. I would definitely not be homosexual. I have nothing against what they do, and I don't deny that I've engaged in sex with males, but that I'm bisexual. I couldn't get along with my father. I mean, he was just overbearing. I was dumb and stupid, never would amount to anything, and so I just took off in this house, and instead of having coffee, we had a couple more drinks, and I must have passed out. I woke up laying on his bed with no clothes, so it cut off the air. So if you're going to kill somebody, you just put it on their neck and twist it 3 times or 4 times or whatever until the person stopped moving. In the clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool.